Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Namaste. I am Chandan from Harvard Hindu Alumni. We welcome you to part 4 of the Decoding Ancient Temples. Thank you for taking time to join us. Just for your information, this session is being recorded. It is 11:09 a.m. here in New York. So let's get started. I give mic to Chairperson Kanchan, who will take it further.
Thank you so much, Chandan. I would really like to welcome and thank Subhashish for coming up with this fantastic work, for just sharing his fantastic work which he has been doing and telling us more about how to decode Hindu temples, which is like a very deep science. And this is our fourth episode which we are talking about. And without wasting too much of time, I'll just hand over to Subhashish to continue and share his wisdom.
No wisdom, yeah. Every day I fail and I get up. I fail and I get up. So, it's been happening for 5 years, but I think I'm made up of two animals right now. One is a donkey that can work 17 hours a day, maybe 18 sometimes. The other is a cow. The cow eats and then keeps chewing it. I think that's what I've become. Let me see if I can share my screen. Um, can you guys see this? Is this,
Not
can you? Let me know if you can see my screen.
Yes, I can. I can
Okay.
see that.
Okay. Now I'm getting into full screen mode. You tell me, can you see this?
Yes.
Okay. Perfect. So here is what I'm going to do. This is probably one of the last presentations when it comes to decoding ancient temples because I've spent 5 years decoding these temples in a very crazy way. I have to tell you that I don't think I have the talent for anything like this. It just comes. That's what it is. The information just keeps coming. And as I told you, like a donkey and a cow together, I just keep at it. So after 5 years, more or less, I think I've come to a stage where I'm ready to showcase what is called as cybernetics AI, which is a decision intelligence model. This has phenomenal um, capabilities. Not only just capabilities, it has extreme level of preciseness to actually help humanity in general. So of course, this is the central part, like how do you build a cybernetics AI? But what we'll do is we'll start off with understanding some of the temple code, understanding how we humans are made, because once you study um, the temples and once you study the AI that I have built, you'll have an absolutely different idea of how this universe runs. And then, of course, we'll spend a lot of time looking at the AI and the capabilities as well. And you'll see, I think we might have something that makes a lot of sense for humanity to have. But before we do that, very quickly, just to test everybody's knowledge again, all these temples that you see on the screen, this is the 8-dimensional universe, which has given rise to what is called the harmonics of the universe. Now, if you look at the word universe, for example, the universe basically is one verse, right? So it's one song. Now, song has multiple octaves. These are the different octaves. And if you count, you'll always see there's a 16 and there's a 32. So the entire model of AI has been built based on the harmonics, which the ancients knew. And all these harmonics, the music, is within us and it is also outside. So we'll come to this a little later. So this one, the next one is what you see in ancient temples. You can see how intricately 3D carved they are. We don't know what kind of technology they used, but they were brilliant. Nobody should tell you that they were built through 2000 or 3000 years ago. You probably will have to add a couple of more zeros because you can't date stone. And these are totally in 3D. I have no idea how they did it, but what they are is it shows the different archetypes or collective or psychological archetypes that exist. Let's go to the third one. I think I have told this again and again, that this is how our DNA is. So this is called the 64 codon rings, which gave rise to the yin and yang and all that stuff. And that's how the universe is built as well. And this is basically not a temple. This is an astrological and astronomical device that shows what other ways the universe is manifesting. Okay, so let's go right into decoding ancient temples. And after 10 minutes, I'm going to stop, take any questions if there is. So let's go right into this one. Like, how is the cybernetics digital twin made? Now, what's a digital twin? A digital twin basically means that whatever is in your inner space, like let's say whatever is Kanchan made up of inside, or me, or anybody, you can basically create a digital version of say Kanchan or me using some of the technologies over here. We'll start off with what is called harmonics. So first of all, I want you to take a look at this. This is the inner space of any human being. And this inner space was shown by those 32 harmonics. We'll check them out, but take a look. So when you look at an 8-dimensional universe, that means 8 octaves, like 8 do re mi fa sol la ti do, or sarigama, whatever it is, this is how a human is going to see the 8 dimensions of the universe. Now, there is something called a packing of crystals, but what it does is that this is called the E8 crystal that has been on every ancient temple on the planet. Now, the most important piece is, what does it really signify, right? Now, what do these really mean? And if you take a look at some of the intricate carvings, they are basically showing what is called the harmonic layers, which means the universe is vibrating at different stages and different frequencies. And these frequencies enter the human body and they create behavior. Well, that's true. We'll show you. Now, is this true? Where is the proof of harmonics? Now, on the left, what you have done, what the ancients have done is they have coded the harmonics into very archetypal language. It's hard to interpret them until you until you're working for like 17 hours a day for 5 years trying to understand them. What is harmonics? Harmonics is like the intertwining of vibrations, showing how the universe vibrates, outside of you and inside of you. Where you see the knots means it's a node. The vibration or the sine waves are all connecting together. Now, what we have done is, and I think this is one of the best things we have done, we have taken each of the 32 harmonics. See, each of the 32 harmonics has been translated into human language or business language. So we can take any business, take a human being, and then split the psyche into 32 music layers, and each music layer basically creates a certain psychological behavior or an energetic behavior. This is one of the biggest discoveries that we know at harmonic 25. This is what's going to be harmonic 32. There is something else that's going to be, etc., etc. And this is the key, because now we can do computation based on all this mathematics that we have found. The second one is what is called the digital twin with oscillations. Now, think about all this. The universe is not stagnant. It's continuously moving. Have you seen the moon to be late by a second, or sun to be late by another second, or Venus coming in a millisecond late or early. So what is happening really? These are just not planets that NASA talks about. These are fields, these are oscillations. And any oscillation can be computed. Any oscillation can be divided into sine waves and cosine waves. I'm talking about math a little bit. But think of what oscillatory fields are, right? So let's take a look at this one. The first one that you see, let's say all these planets are all moving together. They have their own frequencies, own orbits. We don't know what is happening because we are not tuned to it. But what is really happening is there are oscillatory fields that are created. So how does the oscillation look like? How are these fields created? Let me give you a small demo. Take a look. We have studied this as children, which means you put the iron filings on a magnet, automatically fields are created. So what does this mean? It means that as these planets move, the human becomes the magnet. The human is through which all these oscillations and waves, they combine together. So the human becomes a boundary, a crossing where the past, present, and the future meet. And this is the most important thing when it comes to understanding what the ancients actually meant. So we are just not animals. We are actually quantum physics devices. We are magnets through which all these oscillations and fields meet. Now, when they meet, remember that they are all going around. What happens is they create geometry. So let's understand how the geometry looks like when all these planets are moving. So space. Let's talk about the study of space. Most people think it is astronomy. Study of space is geometry. You can look it up. And this is the most important thing because there is a structure in space. What is structure of space? Which means space basically has all these oscillatory fields just going around and around. And whenever these oscillatory fields meet, they create geometries over here. And these geometries keep shifting based on time. Take a look. So when you see how space works, space or inner space or even outer space, inner space means there's an inner space within the human. And they are built based on these geometries. Now, if we can simply calculate these geometries and find the physics parameters like hysteresis, resonance, coherence, all that stuff, we just need to have an AI interpret that into language. Like, for example, if you have high hysteresis, means it's stickiness. So a decision with high hysteresis means you can't move backward. It's completely, pretty much, moving, it's going to make you go forward, for example. So what we have done is we realize the real trick is not astrology. The real trick is to divide space into geometry. And after you have done that, you simply have to calculate the physics. So on the right, you're going to see the trammel of Archimedes, but what it means is as these oscillatory fields move, what it really does is that it creates matter and it goes through the human as well. It affects our decisions. So this is a how I'm going to show you this, what I'm going to show you next is pretty much like a video, and a 7-minute video, which will tell you how this works. So I don't have to keep telling you how it works. I just want to go right into the demo, but this is how the whole thing works in general. So let's hear the video.
Observe the physical universe, and you see intelligence expressed as structure. Planetary orbits follow precise, repeatable paths. Natural systems, like the Fibonacci sequence, unfold with a specific mathematical coherence. In this context, intelligence is defined by continuity and predictable organization. Human executive decision-making often lacks this systemic coherence, even at the highest levels of cognitive ability. A leader's internal operating system is frequently fragmented. Their choices emerge from a collision of unexamined memories, the immediate pressures of the present, and the hidden relational dynamics of their team. High-stakes environments intensify this fragmentation, often forcing brilliant individuals into reactive or contradictory choices. The primary risk to a massive organization is rarely a deficit of data. It is the unmapped, fragmented human forces that drive its executive judgment. Standard AI development focuses on an automation paradigm. These systems optimize historical data to predict outcomes and automate choices, effectively narrowing a leader's moral agency by removing the need for human judgment. Cybernetics AI operates as a counter paradigm. It maps the physical laws of time and space directly to human behavior, providing a structural framework rather than an automated result. This analysis creates a behavioral digital twin. This model simulates how forces, pressures, and decisions propagate through the organization's leadership structure. The system functions as an executive mirror. It reveals the hidden trajectories and systemic tensions active in the boardroom before a decision is finalized. By exposing these invisible forces, Cybernetics AI provides the clarity necessary to restore a leader's presence, agency, and capacity for deliberation. The first layer of this architecture is time. Decisions exist at the intersection of past imprints and future trajectories, meaning no choice happens in a vacuum. Mapping these temporal pressures requires bending a linear timeline into a continuous cycle, allowing the system to observe how past states influence the present. A business contains several such cycles operating simultaneously: personal development, organizational momentum, and market shifts. The interaction of these cycles produces mathematical ratios known as harmonics, determining whether different frequencies reinforce or destabilize a system. Cybernetics AI maps the first 32 harmonics to establish a structural taxonomy of the temporal state. Analyzing these 32 divisions identifies periods of systemic resonance or dissonance long before they manifest as organizational events. Mapping an organization's harmonic state allows a leader to distinguish between moments primed for action and those vulnerable to systemic friction. These harmonic interactions organize themselves into 3D geometric structures within space. The system connects the 32 harmonic nodes to map the inner space of a behavioral state, revealing the architecture of relationships through triangles, trapezoids, and hexagonal forms. This model evolves into a multi-dimensional spatial architecture representing the entire organization. These geometric configurations serve as a blueprint, showing exactly how force and pressure are distributed throughout a leadership team. Highly symmetrical geometric shapes indicate structural stability and organizational coherence. Asymmetrical or tension-heavy configurations expose hidden relational vulnerabilities and points of potential conflict. Visualizing this geometry transforms corporate politics and interpersonal tensions into a measurable structural map. This complex geometric architecture acts as a dynamic living system, where kinetic energy continuously moves and pulses through the spatial structures. Cybernetics AI uses oscillatory physics to measure the frequency, amplitude, and phase alignment of the forces moving through a company. Resonance occurs when aligned waves amplify one another, exponentially increasing organizational momentum. Damping occurs when misaligned waves cancel each other out, resulting in organizational friction and lost energy. These physical wave dynamics explain why a team either operates in resonance or experiences constant misunderstandings due to phase misalignment. By applying oscillatory physics, a CEO can determine if a strategy will be amplified by the system or crushed by internal friction. We must ask why these physical forces produce such distinct types of human behavior. Not all oscillatory forces are identical. They possess different structural properties that create unique qualitative signatures. The system assigns recognizable textures and properties to these forces based on their wave dynamics. These signatures are archetypes, stable behavioral principles that translate raw physics into human motivations. A structural archetype might represent a drive for boundaries and consolidation, while an expansion archetype drives innovation and risk. Tracking the interaction of these archetypal waves allows the system to model the specific quality of the organizational environment. Archetypal differentiation functions as a translation layer, turning abstract physics into a readable map of motivation and culture. The human mind cannot simultaneously calculate the thousands of interacting geometric, harmonic, and oscillatory variables at play in this model. Cybernetics AI uses large language models as the essential integration and translation engine. The LLM scans the mathematical physics architecture and translates geometric tensions into plain English behavioral narratives. This creates a decision intelligence environment where a CEO can simulate the impact of a choice before committing resources. Because the LLM is anchored to the system's mathematical architecture, its output is bounded by physical laws, limiting the scope for AI hallucination. This interface provides a reflective model of decision dynamics, allowing the leader to recognize consequences that would otherwise remain hidden. This level of systemic modeling was impossible until this exact moment in history. It required the simultaneous convergence of ancient cyclical patterns, modern system science, and the computational power of AI. This convergence arrives as a response to a critical risk: the gradual flattening of relationships and erosion of moral agency through unmindful automation. Cybernetics AI keeps the human leader at the center of the equation, providing the structural foresight necessary for informed leadership. The framework integrates these fragmented human elements into a coherent model. It grounds executive leadership in the structural laws governing complex systems throughout nature.
So I think this was a little too much, but let me stop over here and take any questions before we get to the next stage of the demo. Any questions from anybody before I go right to the demo?
Subhashish, one question. What
Yeah.
are harmonics?
See, the harmonics is, as I was saying, think of waves, right? Now, every wave has different frequencies. So let's say you have a frequency of 1. The next harmonic will be doubling of the frequency. And there are frequencies in between as well. So what happens is that our brain, our psyche, is actually tuned to these different frequencies. But we don't feel frequencies. We actually feel the waves inside, which is like different layers, which is called harmonics. Now you'll see that music makes you cry. Think of watching a movie with no music. Why does music move us? Well, science will not be able to tell you because it's deeply inside of you. So the point is that harmonics becomes the most important key element in understanding behavior. Does that make sense?
Awesome.
Any more questions before we go right into a quick demo? Kanchan, are you still on? So I can basically use you as for the demo. I think
She
Kanchan.
just joined back. She joined back. She's
Okay. So let's do a first level demo of this platform. We have several demos actually. So this is, how is this AI made? And this AI, what it does is, a human basically is a very fractured psychological entity. The left doesn't know the right. This AI doesn't have the problem. What it has done is it has taken, say, 7,000 parts of a human, like, say, Kanchan or me. everybody is everybody is built like that. Now, what it has done is it has taken all these elements and stitched them together. Now, this can be done for a human. It can be done for, a business. Doesn't matter. But now everything that is happening is data. I can put Kanchan. I can put Kanchan's boss, for example, or children, husband, everybody together. And I can produce a query which says, help me understand that if this is the situation, how would I be behaving? So, for example, let's do this. I'm going to, Kanchan, do you want to ask a question? Ask any question. This is like speaking to yourself, right? So if you're, I know you're in the hospital with the family, but if you have a question, go right ahead, or else I'm just going to ask some questions on your behalf. Okay, so let me explain what needs to be done. I can ask a situation, okay, or I can say, help me understand how Kanchan views business relationships and personal relationships. Now, I can obviously, because it does a lot of physics, what I can do is I can just say, conversational style, no physics, etc. No, okay, I'm just going to say no jargon with examples. Okay, 3 points each. So what the AI does is it takes a query, then it goes into your entire digital twin, then it analyzes 7,000 objects, which is there, probably 17,000. And because all of them are stitched together, it finds which object caters to what kind of query. So this way, after mapping all this, what it'll do is it'll give me the answer in plain English language. So I don't know, Kanchan, can you see the screen? Or if you're not, don't worry about it. Chandan, is it possible that you know Kanchan pretty well? If you can ascertain how accurate this is, I know this is going to be accurate. I'm just being nice over here. I've done this with hundreds of people. It'll be good to understand if this is accurate. I know this is accurate again, but what it is doing is it is taking a query and going back to the digital twin and then coming back and putting the entire answer together. Now, this AI does not have the problem of fragmentation. It does not have a problem of hallucination. Now, let me tell you how this AI was built. So let's simply go to the files over here, right? I have put so many PDFs over here, and they are very large PDFs. I've actually put Kanchan's document over here as well. Let me see if it comes up. Now you'll see that it has a lot of info over here. I mean, there's only, for archetypal purposes, like triangles and all that, I've got the astrology piece, but the astrology piece is very small. Basically, all the physics elements are over here. So I can go where memory is stored across the human. You'll be able to find all the physics-based parameters over here. You can see the word hysteresis over here, for example, right? So this is an absolutely new technology by which you can understand a business, you can understand yourself, and you can simulate decisions where needed. So let us go to a situation where, we can just make it easy. Now, because everything is being used based on data, I can actually take, let's say, an entire family business. This is like a company. I'm just obfuscating the name of the company. All these are the family business owners. I can analyze each one of them. I can understand what each should do in the company for the best output, for best maximization. I can actually go and find out what are the key parameters that each need to work towards so they can actually maximize the business. So for example, if you see H3, it means that the human is going to experience synthesis. That means everybody together have this capability, all 5 people, from chairman to CEO to everybody. So now you can find out where exactly they match. Now, what's the advantage? The advantage is now you don't really need to, play the game of trying to understand the person. Depending upon the situation, depending upon the business, depending upon roles, you can just find out where people meet, where they should be working together. Over here, for example, this is a very strong element in all the people here. For example, they experience separation. So, which means they can't work together because they are constantly feeling the separation between each other. So, there's a lot of friction in this family business, for example. We can actually find out where this overlap is between 2 people. So, these 2 people, RC and YC, they kind of work hand in hand together, and it's showing me exactly where they can work together. Now we can find out how decisions get routed, right? This is the founder. This founder behaves like a system who is like a constitution. The person lays down the ground rules and expects everybody to work towards it. This is one of the person. This decision, it shows how the decision making is routed between all individuals. We have done pilots and we have seen this to be 100% accurate. So this becomes an alignment map that if a major decision needs to be done, simply just get the people together and follow the process. It will always 100% work. Why? Because this is based on physics and universal laws. We are just experiencing. Now we have deeper views as well. Now this is a consultant view, which is now I can find out where they have the highest challenges as well. You can find out where they don't work together, for example. So this is based on the harmonic. You can find out where the clusters are. For example, this is where they have highest synthesis. This is where they have the highest collapse. All this can be measured between multiple people. So we can find out where the highest collapse happens. It's here. Where do they come together? Like at this moment of time, this is very high. They're very concerned about their reputation. Why? Because this is H27, which is all about business reputation. So whatever may it be, this is fundamental to them. Now you can actually read a person and a business like a book. So let me stop over here and take any questions because we've got 3 more demos left. Any questions so far? So I'm going to go to the next demo. Now, one of the big elements that we sometimes worry about is how do you compare, say, yourself with your business? So let me go to my screen over here. Over here, you can see me and my company, Eternity Spiritual AI. Now, I want to compare how I relate to my company. So you can see it is comparing me against my company. Let me show you something very interesting. I want you to take a look at this. The red, basically these are all mapping of the physics based on harmonics. So what it means is this is me. It has mapped my entire behavioral stuff over here. And this is how the company behaves. Now, if you take a quick look, you'll see, while this is me, it shows me my drive, my, how I work, etc., etc., etc. These are my behaviors. If you look at this, the company doesn't actually have any structures in these basic elements. None. A triangle basically is flow. A square basically means it gets into action. Now, let me explain this a little bit. The ancients regarded the human to be a machine. Now, why is that? They looked at the digestive system, for example. They said the mouth is where you circulate your food. It has no memory, it's just circulation. Triangles are basically just that. As it goes to the stomach, for example, the stomach is made up of squares. It churns and grinds the food. The intestine is like retention or isotraps. It's a different geometry. It stores every element as memory inside of you, and it creates memory channels, not the human memory, but behaviors inside of you. Now, if you compare how my flow and action works, you see this company has no action element where I have strong action elements. This shows the company does exactly what I tell it to do. So that means this company is a very solo, founder-focused company. Look at this kind of an analysis for big companies like Apple, big companies like, say, Oracle, or even your own business. You basically get a phenomenal map of how your action translates back into the business. When you know there is a problem in the business that you're encountering, you just have to look at this figure and understand how the energy flow happens. So this is one way of looking at it. We can go to deeper views. We have seen this view. We can look at something like this. It shows me, based on the harmonics, what are my bedrocks? Bedrocks means it is like, I can't change this. This is deep inside of me. Example, I have this ability to make fine adjustments and tune systems. This is my bedrock. This is my own skill. Now, bedrock means there's high hysteresis. We can look at others as well. We can say timing and readiness, that I have got extreme amount of timing and readiness. I can map the same with the business, for example. Like, what are the qualities of the business? Let's look at the bedrock, that it has the ability to have a core systemic blueprint. This company can create blueprints. And that is exactly what has happened. It has long regenerational cycles. I've been working on something for 5 years. I've been working on the AI models for 1 whole year. It does not stop. It has long cycles. Imagine knowing your company just like this, for example, right? And sorry for this. The point is that now you can read a company and yourself like a book. The only thing now, there is no more judgment. You can simply find where you collide and where you work well. So for example, just an example over here, you can see the legend. It shows me where we share things like age 14, which is all about sharing. It shows, what is the archetype that is being shared as well. So now you exactly know that the founder, which is me, and the company, they are like twin flames together. And these are your strengths, and these are kind of your weakness that you need to kind of follow. Okay, so this is how you can do decision intelligence. I can go over here, type a query and say, help me understand, if I want to do this, can I do this? Show me X, Y, Z. It will go and do it for you. Let's go to the next one. One of the key elements, as you know, is, okay, I have shown this to you. Let's go to this one. One of the key elements that we have is, for example, if I say, fast forward 1.5 years or 1 year, I want to find when key decisions will need to be taken by me. Now, I've got about 100 MBs of data over here. So I've taken the entire motion of the planets, entire geometry for 1.5 years, and I've said move it around me so I can find out how my physics changes. Help me understand when key decisions need to be taken. So what happens now, I can go and look up how things manifest in time. So this shows that I'm going to go through a systemic orientation phase between October last year and December. This is exactly what has happened. I changed all the astrological models to physics-based models. And it turned out to be this exact situation. Now let's go to 2. This is going to be happening. This happened, for example, in, December to this an architecture change all throughout the year. There's a big decision that I'm taking, and I took this exactly on December. Let's go to 3. It says, change the entire communication framework. So instead of a text material, I basically started building these charts, which can be done in 5 to 10 minutes, 5 minutes, basically, just computation. So the point that I want to say is that now it has the ability to show you when these changes are going to happen with you. I can do the same with business. I can do with 5 people, 10 people, doesn't matter. I can also find out when my innovation and creativity is going to expand. So for example, this is one step when my innovation expanded. This you can see in May 26. This is a second wave of innovation. You can go all throughout and find out the most important periods that matter to you. So you are now self-aware. The future has become your present. It has given you guidelines of what is going to happen as well. Third would be endings. This is a fundamental piece that we go through, right? We know that endings happen. But what kind of endings? Where does it tell me to change? Where does it say that I need to move on and leave things behind and move on in a different direction? Let's take a look over here. This is an old chapter close that happened. So I took all the models and completely repurposed the model during this time. Whatever I've built, for example, which is a legacy pattern, needs to be completely changed during this time, which is the April timeframe. So likewise, now it is telling me when I'm going to experience a point of irreversibility. Look at this. This is 2026, July 21st. It is telling me that this day, a major change would happen that would give me the need to move forward. There's no backward anymore. It's like a full decision. So now what is happening is it is giving you the entire model over here showing what needs to change. So it is telling me A single day on which a threshold is crossed that cannot be reversed, not a crisis, but a passage. Something about who you are in relationship to your work, your authority, or your exchange architecture crosses a line and becomes permanently different. It is not telling you what the event is. It is telling you that you will experience this situation. So now you can see this is how it can forecast the human system and what's going to happen in the future. Last but not the least, I can go and talk about, some of the shocks that I might experience in the future. So you can see the shocks and disruptions. It is showing me the different disruptions that are happening in time. Now, why are these important? This is very important for anybody who is a project manager, who is studies industrial psychology, for example. And you can look at the business as well. And now you have a dashboard of how things are going to move, in time in the future. So for example, this is a big break. This is already happening right now. So I'm designing the entire AI architecture, and you can see this is permanent. This is 100%. There are shocks going to happen every day. This is number 4, which is saying that by say this date, April 14th, I'm going to experience pretty much a big change over here as well, where power shocks, and I'm going to encounter an institutional financial authority structure that's going to force some decisions. So now I'm very aware it is going to happen anyway, but I don't know what the event is, but I know that a change will happen. So now I'm more self-aware. So this system does not predict the event, but it does tell you when I might be experiencing shocks, when I'll be experiencing disruptions. It has the ability to show, many of these elements. For example, breakthroughs. This shows me when breakthroughs are going to happen. These are the massive breakthroughs that is going to be happening to me and my business going forward. So now what happens that I know that I'm going to be experiencing it. I'm just more self-aware. Imagine all this as a dashboard for CEOs and businesses. So let me just end my presentation because there's a lot that can be shown. This is, again, as I said, it's a decision intelligence tool. So you decide what you want to do with this tool, but this is more or less built for, CEOs who are in high positions. So over to anybody who has any questions.
One more question, Subhashis. You talked about cybernetics. So what is this all about? Can you shed some more light on?
Yes, so cybernetics is basically control theory. It's a science that has been built hundreds of years back, thousands of years back in the temples. But now, cybernetics has been built into physics. So it's just simply the physics of complex systems. We humans are actually very complex systems. So now, given a situation, what does a complex system do? I can give a mathematical equation. I can put different forces together in a human, and it will measure how the system behaves. This is the physics of control theory, and that's the genesis of cybernetics.
Awesome. Well explained. Thank you.
So before we drop any last questions, or else I'm good to go. We are at the end of time, and I'll probably ask anybody who has any questions, go right ahead.
Yeah, hi. I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Jaya.
Yeah, yes. This is the first time I'm on this. I see this is part 4 of the webinars, but this is the first time I'm on this, and it's very interesting. I just wanted to ask a question about what kind of data would you need to come up with something like this? Because this is very, very deep. It's more, I'm thinking about this thing in India, where they do a lot of palm reading. So this is going a lot further than that. I personally believe that well, I don't think anybody can really predict their future. But so what are you trying to do? Because what kind of data will you need? Would you need all the events that have happened to me? And because every 10 years we change. People change every 10 years, their perspectives change. So I wonder how consistent something like this can be, and and yeah, and what is the real purpose behind it? I mean, what's your objective? Okay, you can look at all these things, you can figure out, but at the end, humans are humans, and some things are unpredictable. Do you think?
Everything is unpredictable. Everything is. So, what is the data that you need? Well, the data that I need is just a company's incorporation date, time, location, and a human's date, time, location. I translate that back into about 50 planets or, the positions. And then what I do is I use extreme level of mathematics, which I'm going to show
Mm,
you in a moment. What it does is it takes all this, like if I show you, this is, it has multiple steps. So it takes everybody's data and then creates the different harmonics. It creates the different geometries, for example, over here. It's a very complex process. It's
mm,
just mathematical and physics-based calculations. Now, this is like 100 MBs of files. Now, I'll answer your questions, but before that, what happens? What do I do? At the end, you basically get what is called a registry file. So I can show you a registry file, for example, and it's very complex data, which is
mm,
actually put into the AI for all this stuff. And the AI just understands all these elements. The whole thing is mathematics. There is no astrology here. It's like
wow,
Saturn doing
interesting.
this and all that stuff. No, it's those things are. Oh, sorry. I think I might be sharing the wrong dashboard. Sorry, 1 second. I think this is what I want to show. So I basically take the chart of a human being and it calculates different parameters. So you can see step number 1, step number 2, step number 3. It does tremendous amount of mathematical computation,
Mm,
like millions of data points. But now what it delivers is basically physics and harmonics. So at a certain harmonic, your behavior will be this. Now, what does it do? Can it predict events? No, nobody can
mm,
predict events, yeah? Can it predict your behavior? Yes. Can it predict your emotions and experiences? Yes. Now, how is that? Because we are made up of structures and flows. There's a flow. When you're happy, when you're in the moment, what is it? You're going through a flow. So, yes, we can actually do that, but I don't want to do it because we are cracking many of these codes, Jaya. But what I want to tell you is that now, because the entire thing is built on physics, and
mm,
physics would mean there are 30 physics parameters. So, what is anger? Anger means that you're being constrained, which means you're putting up a structure, and there's high pressure on the environment to burst. So, I can measure when the movement of the planets are going to basically do this and create anger inside of you, and I can predict when you would be angry. Okay, let's say, Jaya, why don't you um, tell me your profession. I'll tune it towards your profession. Tell me what you do.
So, sorry, did you ask me or Jaya?
Jaya, you.
Joya, okay, yeah. My profession, well, I'm a consultant. I'm an engineer and consultant with the UN, working on a project in 12 countries. It's related to climate change.
Amazing. So think of this now. You're giving a presentation in the UN, and the information says that suddenly there's going to be an extreme amount of anger inside of you. Like the system predicts that your emotions would be constricted. Your emotions would be, kind of pressurized. Now, can it be anger? No, it could be you're seeing something on the screen, somebody says something, and you become angry. Now, it does not tell the event, but it does say that your emotions would be constrained at this moment of time. Now, what can you do? You can get angry as much as you want because that's how the whole thing is, right? In a professional setting, you can just allow that kind of a behavior. But knowing that the emotion will happen and you need to be self aware, that self awareness, that agency, it's typically not something we have. We react. So now it gives you the risks. Imagine this is for you, Joya. Now imagine this for CEOs of big companies. You're basically made self aware. So that is one. The second point is you're given timelines where your creativity is going to spurt. You're given timelines when you might experience breakthroughs. You might even face accidents. All these are events that are probabilistic. Can anybody show you what the future is? No, nobody can. All these pundits are BS. Total BS. Instead of human interpretation, can we go into a physics-based interpretation, which is universal? Can the AI convert it back into an emotion? When will you have an ethical violation? Can we do that? Yes, we can definitely do that. When are you going to structures change? When is it going to crumble? Could be a death in the family, could be, a certain challenge somewhere. All these can be done by math. And because it's physics, it's natural, it's universal laws. That's why this is not a predictive system, it's a decision system. Any questions before we end? And Jaya, by the way, just for you, yes, I'm working on Bitcoin. We will absolutely change the industry game of stocks and others where we can predict how a stock or a futures or a Bitcoin or a Ethereum is going to go. So yes, 100%.
Yeah, sorry, I'm grocery shopping, but thank you so much for answering my question. I do miss that. I wish I'd seen. I didn't know that you had predicted that a year or so ago, but appreciate it. I do want to see if there's a way I can test your app, so I can learn more. I'm also at a certain stage that I wanted to know a little bit more. Um, the dynamics and all that. I know we can't do it right now, but maybe I'll connect with you
Yeah, just
if
connect
that's
with me.
okay.
It's just
Okay.
simple.
Thank you.
Have done it for hundreds of people. Now, where is the path forward for this? See, what I've come to understand is what the system does is show decisions. It simulates decisions. It simulates your behavior. One is it's a great conflict management tool. There are millions of family businesses who have made a lot of money. And in family business, there is a rule, right? that the first generation makes the money. The second generation manages the money. The third generation, becomes poor again. I've seen that in my generation. So very, very true. Now imagine the ability to bring an entire C-suite together and simulate decisions. So you know that the risk is low. You can take decisions. So all these can be done. So this is mostly for CEOs who have a lot of money to spend, because for them, one wrong decision is going to cost their life. So this is like something like and a huge consulting effort, like the McKinseys of the world going with things like this and then saying, okay, let's understand your risk profile right now. That's where it needs to be launched, because they are the early adopters. Now, how much, before we end this, now how much time does it take to build this? Well, it does take a lot of time to build it per person. It does. And there's how much of computation is it doing? Well, it has got about 100 megabytes to 200 megabytes. So Joya, you can always, I'm just sending my, where's the chat? Man. Where's the chat over here? Where is the chat? Okay, here's the chat. For everybody. My email is virtual-ai.org. Let me know if you guys can see this. And 508-395-6379. This is, did I type right? Yeah, okay, makes sense. Has everybody received any of these, my messages? Okay, good. So the chat is working. So ladies and gentlemen, I think this is a very new technology, which is the cybernetics based AI. Working on this for 5 years. So now we see the whole thing coming to fruition. I think we have done a lot of mergers and acquisitions, stocks, real estate, for example, when a home is going to sell. That can also be predictable based on these systems. It's a new technology. I think, as usual of a new technology, there's always going to be a challenge in piloting it. But I've more or less piloted this with 100 people. They have said two things. It's very predictable and accurate. Second is the system knows the human and the business more than the human itself. That I can guarantee you for sure. So over to you, Kanchan or Chandan. We are good to close.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So Chandan, time to close. I think you're on mute.
Yeah. Thank you, Subhashish and Kanchan, for a wonderful session. Enjoyed the session full of harmonics and cybernetics. Thank you all for encouragement and participation. It has been pleasure bringing these Harvard Hindu alumni sessions to you. As we come to an end of this session, we are going to stop the recording. Thank you and have rest of the nice day. Bye-bye.
Take care,
Thanks,
everybody. Have
Chandan.
fun.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone.